Welcome back to the podcast, everyone, episode 313. Today, Jenny, we are diving deep into a scandal that, for many of us, felt like a personal betrayal from one of the biggest tech companies on the planet. I'm talking about Apple and the whole slowing down old iPhones situation.
Oh, Mark, this is one of those topics where I can already hear the collective groan from our listeners. Like, oh no, not that times again. Because for so long, everyone suspected it, but it was always dismissed as a conspiracy theory, right?
Exactly. It was that weird suspicion you had when your iPhone 6s, which used to be snappy, suddenly felt like it was running through treacle right before a new iPhone model came out, and you'd think, is it just me? Am I imagining this?
Yeah. And then you'd go to the Apple store, and they'd say, oh, your phone is 5 years old, maybe it's just time for an upgrade. Wink, wink. But the truth, as we now know, was far more deliberate.
Far more deliberate. And the bombshell dropped around late 2017 when Apple finally admitted it. They were indeed slowing down older iPhones. Not for nefarious reasons, they claimed, but to prevent unexpected shutdowns caused by aging batteries. They called it power management. We called it Batterygate.
Batterygate. It sounds like something out of a spy novel, doesn't it? But it was very real. And the impact on user experience was undeniable. We're talking performance dropping by 50 to 60% on some models, like the iPhone 6s. I mean, my phone felt like it was walking through mud.
Yeah, those Geekbench benchmarks after the fact confirmed it. We had independent researchers showing clear, measurable drops in CPU clock speeds, like your phone that once ran at 1,400 megahertz might suddenly be capped at 600 megahertz. That's not just a little slow. That's a significant performance cut, like putting a speed limiter on a sports car.
And the way it exploded, right? It wasn't Apple proactively telling everyone, hey, we've implemented this feature to keep your phone from dying. It was discovered. People started noticing, running benchmarks. And it was only after the public outcry that Apple even acknowledged it. Why do you think they chose to hide it, Mark?
Oh man, that's the million-dollar question, isn't it? Their technical explanation, which actually makes sense, is that lithium-ion batteries degrade over time. They can't deliver the peak power demands needed by the CPU, leading to unexpected shutdowns. So to prevent your phone from just poofing times in your hand, they reduced the CPU's demands. It's technically a valid engineering solution to a chemistry problem.
So it was for our own good? Like, don't worry your pretty little head about it, we'll just handle it for you, kind of thing? As if we're not capable of understanding battery degradation, or having a preference over performance versus random shutdowns.
Pretty much. But by not being transparent, it felt manipulative. Like, here's this incredibly powerful mini computer in your pocket, and it's being intentionally hobbled without your knowledge or consent. It's the difference between a car mechanic saying, your tires are bald, they need replacing, and the car secretly reducing engine power because it knows your tires are bad and doesn't tell you until you're stranded.
That's a spot-on analogy. Because if my mechanic told me about the tires, I'd say, okay, fix them. And that's where someone like MKBHD, Marquise Brownlee, really came in. He explained this whole saga, not just from Apple's perspective, but from the user perspective, which was crucial. He became the voice of reason.
His video was influential. It showed how a simple battery swap could restore a slow iPhone to its original speed. For something like $29, he validated Apple's technical rationale. Yes, the battery issue is real, but he criticized their lack of transparency. He's like, it makes sense technically, but why didn't you just tell us this from the start?
Exactly. The message was, this isn't planned obsolescence in the traditional sense, but the lack of communication made it feel times like it. And that's where the sentiment of people like Joe Rogan came in, who just amplified that raw consumer anger. He called it a solid, dirty thing, which, let's be honest, resonated with a lot of people who already felt a bit suspicious of big tech.
It did. Because for years, users had this creeping suspicion that their old phone was being deliberately slowed down to push them towards a new one. And then MKBHD comes along and basically says, here's why your phone is slow, here's how to fix it, and here's why Apple fell short in their communication. That's powerful validation for what users had been feeling.
It's interesting because, pre-scandal, those Apple Store visits, I remember friends being told, oh, your iPhone 6 is just old, not, your iPhone 6 needs a new battery, which we can do for $79. So instead, People just bought new phones, unknowingly falling into Apple's silent trap.
19% of throttled iPhone users reportedly bought new phones instead of just replacing the battery. Think about that for a second. That's millions of people spending hundreds or thousands of dollars for a fixable problem that would have cost them $29 or $79, depending on when they did it. Apple made that battery replacement cost $79, then after the backlash, dropped it to $29. A significant price correction, I might add.
That's where the accusations of an unnecessary upgrade trap really stick. Imagine learning that your slow phone just needed a battery instead of a complete replacement after you've already bought a new $1,000 device. You'd feel extremely upset, maybe even duped.
Yeah. And Apple sold 77 million iPhone 7 and 8 units in the first quarter of 2018. It might be a coincidence, but that's a 12% year-over-year increase. It's hard not to connect the dots there, especially when you consider the legal fallout and the timing of these sales.
Indeed. Because this wasn't just a PR hiccup. This led to serious legal and regulatory repercussions globally. We're talking a $113 million settlement in the US, and even fines from the EU, like the 25 million euros from the Italian Competition Authority for aggressive commercial practices. It showed that regulators were taking this seriously.
Right. And in typical Apple fashion, they settled without admitting wrongdoing, but they did make changes. French courts, for example, even found internal Apple documents discussing managing iPhone sales curves, which really fueled those planned obsolescence claims. It makes you wonder what else is in those internal documents, doesn't it?
So really, the fines, while they sound impressive, in the context of a trillion-dollar company, might have felt more like a cost of doing business rather than a true punishment. But a significant outcome was the change to iOS. We finally got the battery health feature in iOS 11.3, which I use constantly now.
Oh, that was a crucial addition. It was a direct acknowledgement of user concerns right there. Suddenly, you could see your battery's maximum capacity and whether it was affecting performance. You could even disable the PUO, performance management, if you wanted to risk shutdowns for full speed. That changed everything, giving users control.
And it sparked something bigger, didn't it? The right to repair movement gained significant momentum because of Batterygate. Seeing how easily a phone could be revitalized with a simple battery swap pushed for easier access to parts and repairs. We've seen legislation in France and other places mandating battery health indicators on electronics, which is a big win for consumers.
Absolutely. It rewrote the blueprint for tech accountability. Post-scandal, about 87% of phone brands now offer some form of public battery health metrics. Samsung, for instance, in their One UI, clearly displays battery wear and lets you toggle performance modes. They managed to avoid the same backlash Apple faced, probably by being more upfront after seeing Apple's mistake, learning from competitor missteps.
So in an ironic turn of events, Apple's hidden throttling, which could have been seen internally as a way to keep phones useful for longer, actually became the catalyst for forcing transparency and longer device lifespans across the industry. Your Android now shows battery wear? Thank Apple's scandal for paving the way for that honesty, a silver lining, if you will.
It's the ultimate example of good intentions, terrible execution, and worse communication. The throttling times designed to extend the hardware's usability by preventing unexpected shutdowns. If they had just communicated that from the beginning, if they'd made the $29 battery easy and obvious, it could have been seen as a customer-centric move. Instead, it became a cautionary tale, a lesson in how not to handle customer relations.
Yeah, and MKBHD summed it up well. Technically smart, communicatively dumb. That's the epitaph for Batterygate. It shows that even if your engineering is sound, if you don't bring your users along with you on that journey, and you take away their choice or their information, they will eventually react negatively.
And they should. Because in this post-Batterygate era, consumers expect and deserve candor about how their devices function. That trust, once broken, is incredibly hard to rebuild, and it genuinely changed how the entire tech world approaches device longevity and repair, a lasting legacy of this whole saga.
Definitely. It's a good reminder for all tech companies. Transparency isn't just a buzzword, it's essential for maintaining consumer trust. And sometimes, the truth is just a cheap battery away, or at least a clear explanation. Thanks for breaking this down, Mark.
My pleasure, Jenny. Always a pleasure. Thanks for joining us on episode 313. We'll chat with you next time.